Adanna's hands trembled as she crushed cassava roots against the grinding stone. Each downward press sent sharp pains through her wrists, but she welcomed the distraction. Anything to drown out the whispers floating from the compound next door. 7 years. Old Mama Nkechi's voice carried over the fence. 7 years, and not even a miscarriage. That woman's womb is closed. Adanna squeezed her eyes shut. 7 years. 7 years since she'd married Obi, the man she'd loved since childhood. 7 years of monthly disappointments, of pitying glances at the market, of her mother-in-law's increasingly cold silences. Adanna, she flinched. Obi's mother, Mama Obi, stood in the doorway of the main house, her wrapper tied high above her sagging breasts, her face carved into its usual expression of disapproval. Yes, Mama. Adanna wiped her hands on her wrapper and hurried over. My son will be home soon. He has something to discuss with you. The older woman's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Finally, he's come to his senses. Adanna's stomach dropped, but she nodded and returned to her grinding. She'd learned long ago that arguing with Mama Obi only made things worse. When Obi arrived an hour later, the sun had begun its descent, painting the compound in shades of amber and rust. He didn't look at her as he entered their small house, the one his father had built for them on their wedding day. The one that should have been filled with children's laughter by now. Sit down, Adanna. His voice was different. Flat. Rehearsed. Adanna lowered herself onto the wooden stool, her heart hammering against her ribs. Obi remained standing, his shadow falling across her like a judgment. I've made a decision. I'm taking a second wife. The words should have shocked her, but they didn't. She'd seen this coming for months. The way he'd stopped reaching for her at night, the way his eyes slid past her in the mornings, the private conversations with his mother that ended abruptly when she entered a room. Who? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Chioma, the pastor's daughter. Of course. Chioma with her wide hips and quick smile. Chioma who already had a son from a previous relationship, living proof of her fertility. I see. Adanna's fingers twisted in her wrapper. And what happens to me? Obi finally looked at her then, and what she saw in his eyes was worse than anger. It was indifference. You'll remain here as my first wife. You'll help Chioma with the children when they come. When they come. Not if. The certainty in his voice cut deeper than any knife. I've been a good wife to you, Adanna whispered. I cook your meals, keep your house, tend your mother. A wife's first duty is to give her husband children. The explosion came suddenly, all the frustration of 7 years erupting at once. What good is a wife who cannot fulfill the most basic purpose? My friends mock me, Adanna. They ask if I'm even a man, if I'm capable of. He stopped, breathing hard. Adanna felt something crack inside her chest. We could see another doctor. There are specialists in the city. We've seen 6 doctors. 6. They all say the same thing. The problem is with you, not me. He turned away, his shoulders rigid. My mother is right. You're cursed. Your womb is cursed. That's not true. Then why? He spun back to face her, and now there were tears in his eyes too. Why, Adanna? Why have the gods denied us? Unless... He paused, something dark crossing his features. Unless you've done something. Something you're not telling me. Obi, no. Did you sleep with someone before our marriage? Did you abort a pregnancy? How can you ask me that? Adanna stood, her own anger finally surfacing. You know I came to you a virgin. You know I've never looked at another man. Then explain it. His voice cracked. Explain why my mother lights candles for grandchildren that never come. Explain why I have to watch my younger brothers carry their babies while my arms remain empty. The silence that followed was broken only by their ragged breathing. The wedding is in 3 weeks, Obi said finally, his voice dead again. You will attend. You will smile. You will welcome Chioma into this family with grace, or so help me, I will send you back to your father's house with nothing. He left without another word. Adanna stood alone in the gathering darkness, her hand pressed against her flat stomach. Somewhere in the village, a baby cried. The sound felt like mockery. That night, She did something she'd never done before. She packed a small bag, just a change of clothes, some dried fish, and the little money she'd saved from selling vegetables at the market. She waited until the compound was silent, until even the crickets seemed to pause in their chorus. Then she slipped out into the night. She walked for hours, her feet carrying her along the familiar path to the river. The River Omambala, the villagers called it. Ancient and powerful, they said. The dwelling place of Idemili, the goddess who blessed or cursed as she pleased. Adanna had heard the stories since childhood. Women who came to the river desperate and left transformed. But also women who came and never returned, claimed by the depths, their bodies never recovered. She didn't care anymore which fate would be hers. The river sparkled under the half-moon, its surface deceptively calm. Adanna removed her wrapper and waded in, the cool water rising to her knees, then her waist, then her chest. She could swim. Her father had taught her despite her mother's protests that it was unladylike, but tonight she felt like simply letting go. Letting the current take her somewhere, anywhere but here. Help me, she whispered to the water, to the goddess, to any power that might be listening. Please. I can't bear this anymore. The water around her legs suddenly warmed. Adanna gasped, looking down. The river was glowing, soft pulses of light emanating from the depths like a heartbeat. Then she heard it. A voice like rushing water, like wind through leaves, like nothing human. Child of sorrow, your tears have reached me. Adanna's breath caught. Idemili. You seek what others have taken from you. But are you willing to pay the price for transformation? Anything, Adanna breathed. I'll give anything. The river's glow intensified, and Adanna felt something ancient wrap around her, pulling her under. She didn't fight it. She surrendered completely. Adanna woke to birdsong and sunlight filtering through unfamiliar leaves. She was lying on the riverbank, her body dry despite the memory of being pulled beneath the surface. For a moment, she wondered if she'd dreamed everything. The goddess, the glowing water, the voice that promised transformation. Then she felt it, a flutter. Deep in her belly, so faint she almost missed it. Her hand flew to her stomach. Impossible. She'd just been in the water hours ago. But the flutter came again, stronger this time, and with it a certainty that defied all logic. She was with child. Not just one child, but two. She could sense them somehow. Two distinct presences growing inside her. Twins. Adanna sat up slowly, her mind reeling. The river stretched before her, ordinary now in the morning light. No glow, no mystical presence. Just water flowing endlessly toward the sea. You will bear twin sons, the goddess's voice echoed in her memory. But you must leave this place. Go to the city of Onitsha. There you will find shelter with a woman named Ezen. She will teach you the ways of trade. You will return in 3 years' time, transformed in every way. Only then will justice be served. 3 years. Adanna's hand remained pressed against her belly. Could she really leave everything, her home, her family, the only life she'd ever known? She thought of Obi's cold eyes, his mother's cruel smiles, the wedding in 3 weeks where she'd be paraded as the Barren first wife, a cautionary tale for other women. She stood and dressed quickly. The decision crystallized in her heart like river stones settling into mud. She would go. The walk to Onitsha took 2 days. Adanna traveled along small roads, avoiding the main highway where someone from her village might spot her. She slept in an abandoned hut the first night, her dreams filled with water and light. The flutter in her belly continued, growing stronger, more real. By the time she reached Onitsha's bustling markets, her feet were blistered and her throat parched. The city overwhelmed her senses. The crush of bodies, the cacophony of vendors hawking their wares, the smell of frying akara and roasting corn mingling with exhaust fumes and humanity. Excuse me, she stopped an elderly woman carrying a basket of mangoes. I'm looking for someone named Ezen. Do you know her? The woman's eyes narrowed. Which Ezen? There are dozens in Onitsha. Adanna's heart sank. Of course. The goddess hadn't given her a surname, an address, anything useful. I don't know. I was told she'd help me. The woman studied her for a long moment, taking in her dusty wrapper and desperate eyes. Are you running from something, child? Tears pricked Adanna's eyes, but she blinked them back. I'm running toward something. A new life. Something in the woman's expression softened. There's an Ezen who runs a cloth trading business near the main market. Big woman, loud voice, heart bigger than both. If you're seeking shelter, she might be the one you need. Go down this road until you see the blue building with fabrics hanging outside. You can't miss it. Thank you. Adanna pressed her palms together in gratitude. She found the place exactly as described. Bolts of Ankara fabric in brilliant colors hung from the awning, swaying in the breeze. Inside the shop, a woman's voice boomed with laughter. No, no, no. That price is robbery. Do I look like I was born yesterday? Adanna stepped inside. The woman, Ezen, she assumed, was indeed large, her body wrapped in expensive lace, her neck adorned with coral beads that marked her as a woman of means. She was negotiating with a supplier, her hands gesturing emphatically. When the supplier finally left, looking both frustrated and amused, Ezen turned, and her eyes landed on Adanna. And who are you, small mouse hiding in my doorway? My name is Adanna. I was told you might, her voice cracked. I need help. Ezen's expression shifted from suspicion to concern. She moved closer, and Adanna caught the scent of expensive perfume and shea butter. Told by whom? Idemili, Adanna whispered. The shop went utterly silent. Ezen's eyes widened, then narrowed as she studied Adanna more carefully. She grabbed Adanna's hand and pulled her to the back room, away from curious ears. Say that again. The river goddess.
She sent me to you.
She said you would teach me to trade. Adanna met the older woman's gaze. She said I would transform. Ezen was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed, deep and rich. Oh, Idemili, you wonderful troublemaker. What have you set me this time? She sobered, looking at Adanna with new eyes. Let me guess. Husband problems. Adanna nodded, not trusting her voice. And you're pregnant. Twins, if I'm not mistaken. Adanna gasped. How did you? Child, I was exactly where you were 30 years ago. Childless, cast aside, desperate. Ezen pulled up her sleeve, revealing a faint scar that shimmered like fish scales in the light. The river claimed me once too. Gave me back my life, my purpose. I had my twins at 40 years old, after everyone said I was finished. They're grown now, running their own businesses in Lagos. Hope fluttered in Adanna's chest alongside the babies. So it's real?
This is really happening.
Oh, it's real. But it's not easy. Idemili doesn't give gifts without testing your mettle. Ezen moved to a small shrine in the corner, a clay pot filled with river water, cowrie shells arranged around it. She poured a libation. You'll stay with me. I'll teach you everything I know about trading. But you must work hard, Adanna. Harder than you've ever worked. The transformation the goddess promises isn't just physical. It's here. She tapped Adanna's forehead. And here. She placed a hand over her heart. I'll do anything.
Good.
Because in 3 years, when you return to your village, you won't just be a mother. You'll be a woman of substance. A woman who knows her worth. Ezen smiled. A woman your husband will regret losing for the rest of his miserable life. That night, Adanna lay on a comfortable mat in Ezen's house, her hand on her growing belly. Somewhere in her village, Obi was probably preparing for his wedding. Maybe he was relieved she'd disappeared, saved him the trouble of dealing with a barren wife. Let him celebrate, she thought. Let him think he's won. The babies fluttered again, stronger now. Adanna smiled in the darkness. 3 years. She would make every single day count. The first year was the hardest. Adanna's pregnancy showed earlier than most, her belly swelling with the twin boys who seemed to grow faster than natural. Ezen explained that children blessed by Idemili were different, stronger, more vibrant, marked by the goddess's favor. People will ask questions. Ezen warned, watching Adanna arrange fabric bolts by color. Let them. Your story is yours alone. But learning to trade while carrying twins tested every limit Adanna possessed. Her back ached constantly. Her feet swelled until they resembled yams. Yet each morning, she rose before dawn to accompany Ezen to the market. Watch, Ezen instructed, approaching a customer. Trading isn't just about selling. It's about reading people, understanding what they need before they know it themselves. Adanna absorbed everything. How to identify quality fabric by touch. How to negotiate without appearing desperate. How to build relationships that turn strangers into loyal customers. Most importantly, how to carry herself with the confidence of a woman who knew her value. The twins were born on a night when the river flooded, water rushing through Onitsha's streets like a blessing. Two perfect boys with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Adanna named them Chukwemeka, God has done well, and Samtachukwu, join me in praising God. They're beautiful, Ezen whispered, holding Chukwemeka while Adanna nursed Samtachukwu. And look, do you see it? Adanna looked closer. On each baby's left shoulder was a small birthmark, shaped like a wave. The mark of Idemili. They'll be extraordinary, Ezen said. Protected. Blessed. She was right. The boys rarely cried, slept through the night within weeks, and smiled earlier than normal babies. Customers who came to the shop were drawn to them, often buying extra fabric just to spend more time cooing over the twins. You're a natural mother, one woman said. Your husband must be so proud. Adanna simply smiled, saying nothing. She'd gotten good at deflecting personal questions. By the time the twins were 6 months old, Adanna had saved enough money to start her own small trading operation. Ezen helped her secure a stall at the market, and soon Adanna's reputation grew. She had an eye for colors that complemented different skin tones, a gift for matching fabrics to occasions. You're not just selling cloth, Ezen explained. You're selling transformation. A woman comes to you in her everyday wrapper, and you help her see herself as beautiful, worthy, special. The irony wasn't lost on Adanna. She was helping other women transform while undergoing her own metamorphosis. The second year brought expansion. Adanna began traveling to Lagos, buying directly from importers and cutting out middlemen. She learned to drive, to negotiate with Lebanese fabric merchants, to stand her ground in rooms full of men who assumed she was someone's wife or secretary. I'm the owner, she'd say calmly, presenting her business credentials. The shock on their faces never got old. Her twins grew into toddlers, chattering in both Igbo and English, charming everyone they met. Adanna hired help, a young woman named Ngozi, who'd also fled a difficult marriage. Together, they built something real. Money came, slowly at first, then faster. Adanna moved into a better house. She bought a car, learned to wear her hair in sophisticated styles, invested in tailored clothing that announced her success before she spoke a word. She took business courses at night school, learning bookkeeping and marketing strategies. But it was the third year that brought the final transformation. Ezen introduced her to a collective of women traders, powerful businesswomen who controlled significant portions of the regional fabric trade. They were the real power brokers, the ones who made or broke trading careers. You need to think bigger, the collective's leader, Chief Mrs. Nwankwo, told her. You're good at retail. But wholesale, that's where the real money is. Chief Mrs. Nwankwo became Adanna's mentor, teaching her about bulk purchasing, distribution networks, and political connections that smoothed the way for business. Within 6 months, Adanna had tripled her income. Within a year, she was wealthy by any standard. But the money was never the point. The point was the woman she saw in the mirror each morning, confident, capable, unafraid. The woman who'd learned that her value didn't depend on anyone's approval. The woman who discovered that barrenness wasn't a curse, but sometimes a pathway to a different kind of fruitfulness. As the third year drew to a close, Ezen found Adanna on her balcony one evening, the twins playing at her feet. It's almost time, Ezen said quietly. Adanna nodded. She'd known this was coming. Idemili had been clear. 3 years. I'm nervous. Don't be. You're not the girl who left that village. You're a woman who's built an empire. Ezen squeezed her shoulder. But Adanna, listen to me. When you return, it's not about revenge. It's about justice. There's a difference. What if? Adanna hesitated. What if he's changed? What if he regrets what he did? Then he'll have to live with his regrets. That's his burden to carry, not yours. Ezen's voice was firm. You don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not a second chance, nothing. You go back for you, to close that chapter properly. That night, Adanna dreamed of the river. Idemolai appeared, not as a goddess, but as an ordinary woman with kind eyes. You have done well, daughter. You have learned what I needed you to know, that your worth was never defined by a man's judgment or a womb's productivity. You were always enough. Now go and show them who you've become. Adanna woke with tears on her cheeks but peace in her heart. She spent the next week preparing. She hired Ngozi to manage the business in her absence. She bought gifts for her parents, expensive fabrics, imported jewelry, enough to announce her success without saying a word. She had new clothes tailored, subtle but unmistakably costly. The morning she loaded her car, a gleaming SUV that would turn heads in her village, the twins were unusually quiet, sensing something significant. Are we going to see Daddy? Chukwamika asked. Adanna knelt before them, taking their small hands. We're going to see where Mama used to live. There are people there who need to learn something important.
What?
Samdachukwu tilted his head. That Mama is strong. And so are you. She kissed their foreheads, touching the wave-shaped marks. Always remember, you are children of the river. You are blessed, protected, and loved. Never let anyone tell you different. As they drove toward her village, Adanna felt the weight of 3 years lifting from her shoulders. She wasn't going back to reclaim anything Obi had taken. She was going back to show herself, and everyone else, that some women don't break. They become rivers. Unstoppable, life-giving, and eternal. The village looked smaller than Adanna remembered. She drove through the main road slowly, her SUV kicking up red dust, drawing stares from people fetching water and children playing. She kept her eyes forward, her hands steady on the wheel despite her racing heart. 3 years ago, she'd left in the dark like a thief. Today, she returned in broad daylight like a queen. Mama, why is everyone looking? Samdachukwu asked from the back seat. Because we're new here, baby. They're just curious. She parked near the central market, and within minutes, a crowd had gathered. People she'd known her whole life, now staring at her like she was a stranger.
Adanna?
Mama Nkechi pushed forward, her eyes wide. Is that you? Yes, Mama. Adanna stepped out of the car, her designer wrapper and jewelry catching the sunlight. It's good to see you. But where have you been? We thought you were dead. Your parents have been... Oh my God, are those children? Adanna opened the back door, helping her twins out. They stood close to her, identical boys with their father's height and her features, the wave birthmarks visible on their shoulders. The crowd's whispers rose like steam. She is children.
Twins.
But how? Obi said she was barren. I need to see my parents, Adanna said calmly. Can someone fetch them? She didn't have to wait long. Her mother came running, her wrapper nearly falling off in her haste. Adanna, my daughter. She grabbed Adanna, sobbing. Where have you been? We've been sick with worry. I'm sorry, Mama. I had to leave. I'll explain everything. Adanna felt her own tears falling. But look, you're a grandmother. These are your grandsons, Chukwamika and Samdachukwu. Her mother's hands trembled as she touched the boys' faces. My grandchildren. Oh, Idemolai be praised, my grandchildren. Her father arrived, older and grayer than she remembered, leaning heavily on a walking stick. His eyes filled when he saw her. Adanna, my daughter has returned. They embraced, and for a moment, she was just a daughter again, safe in her father's arms. But then another voice cut through the reunion. Adanna? She turned slowly. Obi stood at the edge of the crowd, his mouth hanging open. He looked older too, worn in ways that had nothing to do with age. Behind him stood Chioma, heavily pregnant, holding a toddler on her hip. The market went silent. "Obi," Adanna said evenly. "Hello." He stumbled forward, his eyes moving from her face to the twins to the expensive car to her designer clothes. You're alive. And you have, how? How do I have children?" Adanna's voice was calm, but it carried across the market. "The same way any woman has children, Obi. The gods bless me." But the doctors said. The doctors were wrong. She placed her hands on her son's shoulders. Or perhaps the problem was never with me at all. The implication hung in the air. Obi's face flushed red. "That's impossible. I have a child now. Chioma gave me a son." "Yes, I can see. Congratulations." Adanna's tone was genuinely neutral. She felt nothing looking at him. No anger, no longing, just a faint sadness for the life she'd once imagined with this man. Mama Obi pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with fury. "You dare show your face here? After abandoning my son?" After. She stopped, seeing the twins. Her expression flickered between shock and something else. Calculation, perhaps. "These boys," Mama Obi said slowly. "They could be Obi's. You were married when you left. These children rightfully." "These children," Adanna interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade, "were born in Onitsha. I have hospital records, birth certificates with a date clearly marked. I conceived them months after I left this village. They have nothing to do with Obi." "Then who is the father?" Mama Obi demanded. Adanna smiled. "That's none of your concern. I'm a single mother, a successful businesswoman, and I need no man to validate my children's existence or my worth." She turned to address the growing crowd. "I came back to see my parents, to show them their grandchildren, and to remind myself how far I've traveled. I'm not here to cause trouble or make claims. In fact," she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, handing it to Obi. "These are divorce papers. I had my lawyer prepare them. Sign them, and we'll both be free to move forward." Obi took the envelope with shaking hands. "Adanna, wait. I made a mistake. Seeing you now with these boys." "Don't." Her voice cut him off. "Don't you dare. I was wrong. I shouldn't have if I'd known." "If you'd known what?" Adanna stepped closer to him, her voice dropping but still audible to those nearby. "If you'd known I could have children, you would have treated me better? If you'd known I'd become successful, you'd have valued me more? That's not love, Obi. That's not even basic human decency." Tears streamed down his face now. "Please. We could try again. The children need a father. My children have everything they need. They have a mother who loves them unconditionally. They have security, education, and a future. What they don't need is a father who would have cast them aside if their mother couldn't prove her worth through childbearing." Chioma spoke up then, her voice small. "Adanna, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought you'd left willingly. He told me you didn't want to be married anymore." Adanna looked at the younger woman, seeing her own past reflected there, the hope, the vulnerability, the belief that a man's love was the ultimate prize. "Chioma, I don't blame you. Take care of yourself and your children. And remember, your value isn't measured by his approval." She turned to her parents. "Mama, Papa, I have a house in Onitsha. A big house with rooms for you both if you want to come live with me and your grandchildren. I can give you comfort in your old age. You can leave today, or next week, or whenever you're ready. But the offer stands." Her mother's eyes widened. "Leave the village? I built something real, Mama. Let me share it with you." Her father gripped his walking stick, looking at Obi, then at Adanna. "Yes," he said firmly. "We'll come. This village has taken enough from our family." As Adanna helped her parents gather their things, the crowd slowly dispersed. Obi stood frozen, the divorce papers still in his hands, watching the future he'd thrown away drive off in a cloud of red dust. The last thing Adanna saw in her rearview mirror was Obi collapsing to his knees in the dirt, finally understanding the magnitude of what he'd lost. Not a wife, not a baby maker, not a servant, a woman of substance, a woman of worth. A woman who'd learned that the only approval she needed was her own. The river had promised transformation, and the river had delivered. But the real magic wasn't in the goddess's blessing. It was in Adanna's decision to believe she deserved more. As they drove toward Onitsha, toward home, Chukwemeka asked, "Mama, will we come back to visit?" Adanna smiled, her hand reaching back to squeeze his. "Maybe someday, baby. But we don't look back anymore. We only move forward." Behind them, the village grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. And Adanna felt nothing but peace.